Algo, we got some shocking news from the New York Giants. Just days ago, when they signed Jameis Winston to that 2-year deal, they're back at it again, signing Russell Wilson to a 1-year, $10.5 million deal per My Sports Update. It can go as far as, to say, I didn't put it on here, but it can go as far as up to $21 million. And this really puzzles me because you already had Jameis Winston on the roster again, like we said a few days ago, and it signaled, well, okay, he's the veteran guy. You're still in contention to get a rookie quarterback. It makes sense because you have no one else. I mean, at least I would hope that was the plan. You have the third overall pick. You can maybe trade up one spot with the Browns, who are maybe open to trading down regardless, and maybe move up one spot. I mean, Cam Ward is a lock for the first overall pick, so I don't know if Tennessee would even drop down drastic, to the third overall pick unless you have to probably overpay for that. So the second overall pick seems more likely. So okay, you got Jameis Winston and hey, maybe a potential rookie quarterback. Now you bring Russell Wilson into the mix, and I just don't know the thought process with that because does it signal their belief in this rookie quarterback class? Does it show that they don't maybe think as highly of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, who's Sanders being the more likely option for them at this point? Does this rule us out in general? And for me, it's hard for me to believe they're going to have three quarterbacks on the roster like this: Winston, Wilson, and said rookie quarterback. And also, too, for Russell Wilson himself, does this guarantee him is he even guaranteed the job? I know for the Steelers when he season first started, it was because of injury why he did not start. But you look at Justin Fields, who came in, who started the season, and he didn't do horrible. I wouldn't say he wasn't anything amazing, but he wasn't horrible. I think he was good, solid. He was 4-2 his record. He had a great touchdown interception ratio. He brought more of a dynamic to the offense than Russell Wilson, an aspect of his mobile ability. And you saw down the stretch, especially towards the end into the playoffs, whether it was Russell Wilson or Arthur Smith in this offense, the scheming, the offense was horrible. It was relying too much on Chris Boswell to be the hero, to score the points. And once he got into the wild card game, it was pretty evident of who was the far superior team. I mean, they were just way over their heads in that matchup. It was unfair. They couldn't do anything. And this is where it's kind of leading to the point of Russell Wilson no longer being there and them moving off of him. So there's a lot of questions that to go over with that, of what they're doing. I mean, this is the one thing it does signal is more of a win now situation because this regime does not have that time. They should have been fired after the season. The owners grant them one more year, at least half the year thus far, in terms of when they get fired. But at least at the worst case, one more full season, and they're going all in because maybe they know deep down that they're not going to be around for the next rookie quarterback, whoever if they do decide to draft one or move up to get one. That they're not going to be around, and it's going to be a different regime coming in and taking the reins over of that quarterback and that team. So it's a win-now situation, and I also worry in the aspect, too, for Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. Is this team even built enough to do that? I mean, when we look at... First, let's look at Russell Wilson's stats this past season. 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, over 2,400 yards passing. Nothing crazy, but he came in almost halfway through the season. But even then, nothing crazy like we talked about. Here's more of the advanced stats here. And again, nothing really pops out to you in terms of the rankings and what he did. But we look at the offense for the New York Giants and the piece they have. Excluding Malik Nabers, which is the obvious great elite piece they have, soon to be elite player, if not he is already. Everything else is lacking. It's probably okay at best. I do like Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a solid wide receiver. Darius Slay, solid wide receiver. Jalen Hyatt, who's been a disappointment. He definitely gives you that deep threat ability with his speed, but thus far he has not been productive. He hasn't done anything, and again, whether that's him or the offense or Brian Dable, whoever you want to pin it on, it's just not been a good pick. So wide receivers outside Malik Nabers is okay at best, and that might be being generous with it. The running back group is the same thing too. Devin Singletary is a solid running back, but they can do so much better with it. Eric Gray is a solid running back. They can do so much better at that position. So overall, you really don't have anything in the running back group, and it's certainly no doubt a huge downgrade from Saquon Barkley, who we saw what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles this year, as well as the tight ends. Greg Dulcich, again, okay, he's a solid tight end, but that's the theme of this offense. It's okay, it's solid. You only have one blue chip player on this offense. Really, one great player, elite player is Malik Nabers. Outside of that, it's nothing else. It's okay. It's solid. Nothing special. And I worry about for this offense, is this good enough to get the job done? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm overthinking it, and it does work out. And they do have a solid season. I don't know. I'm not saying they're still not gonna be in contention in the playoffs, but maybe they make up the playoffs and lose in the first round. I don't know what the sky the sky is for them or what the limit is, but even the other thing I question too is just this regime going to 2025, and I don't want to get too off topic with this because it's more talking about the quarterbacks, but you look at the drafting, and it's kind of been bad. It really has been, and especially in the first round, first 3 rounds essentially. If you look at 2022, Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, they have been disappointments. Kayvon Thibodeau, did they give you a flash in 2023 when he had double-digit sacks? He regressed. Evan Neal, he's been a disappointment as well too. I mean, I think maybe there's talks of putting him in the guard position. You look at 23, Deonte Banks has not been a good player. Jalen Hyatt, we talked about in the third round. I mean, just not, again, what he brings to the table, they have not been able to unlock or not have been able to utilize him well. I don't know what the reason is. He only has 31 receptions for 435 yards. When this is a offense, especially in the wide receiving group, that is severely lacking. So that's why I kind of worry about Hyatt is he's already in a bad wide receiving group, and he still can't make an impact. He still can't get on the field consistently. Again, I don't know who you put the blame on, or it could be a collection of everybody, but it does worry me about that as well. And then we have, still relatively early, but of course you have your standout Malik Neighbors, who was phenomenal this year. No doubt about that. And we'll see how the rest of the draft class goes. But especially, again, in the first round, it's been very disappointing thus far in this regime's time here. And I just worry, again, for Russell Wilson, or whoever's going to be the quarterback at this point. I don't know. I'm just kind of a little bit thrown off here why they bring both these guys in. Certainly for a quarterback competition. But, I mean, again, from my outside, from my point of view for this whole time, I thought that the idea was to bring a rookie quarterback in here because maybe you're hoping that the front office gives you an extra time to be with a rookie quarterback. I don't know. I mean, if you have Russell Wilson there and let's say you get Shedeur Sanders, however that may be, you get him. Jameis Winston does his typical stuff, turnovers, plays bad. You put Shedeur Sanders in there. He has a solid season. Maybe that buys you an extra time. So I thought maybe they would go that route, and and then certainly there is a win now situation, it's a win now mentality. They have to. There is pressure on this regime to do so, and sure, I guess Russell Wilson is, with being outside, being out of the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, if you want to call it that. This is probably the next best. This is certainly the next best option available, but again, I just don't know how much more this really moves the needle for this team, and I don't know how much for Russell Wilson he has left to offer because of what he did in Pittsburgh. And maybe it comes down to having a better offensive mind, from going from Arthur Smith to Brian Daboll. Maybe it is better because you look at people are trying to cling on to what he did in Buffalo with Josh Allen. And maybe as the years have gone on so far, maybe it was a little bit more of, yes, Brian Daboll did help Josh Allen in his development, and there's no question about that. I don't think no one can argue that. But you also have to look at the other side of it too, is did Josh Allen also make Brian Daboll because of how he is? I mean, since Brian Daboll has been gone from Buffalo, he's won the MVP this past year, and he cut down severely on the interceptions, even more so than what he was with Brian Daboll. I think the least amount he had was 10, and he cut that even a good amount before that. So, I mean, you look at that and you see Josh Allen flourishing. I mean, he's not winning Super Bowls, anything like that, but he's still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, just coming off of the MVP award this past this offseason or last month, you should want to say. So you look at that, does this kind of reflect more on Brian Daboll of was he actually the genius he was, or did Josh Allen make him, or is it a combination of both? I mean, it's kind of more opinionated. It's more like your perception on it, but again, for Russell Wilson, this regime, I'm a little bit puzzled. I presume Russell Wilson is going to be the starter. I mean, I'd be very concerned if there's a quarterback battle and he can't beat out Jameis Winston. I think that's going to be very concerning, to be more of a detriment to Russell Wilson as opposed to kind of more of a great, nod to Jameis Winston. But even with Russell Wilson being the starter there, I don't see it. I don't see the pieces, and especially in a division now that is getting tougher. I mean, maybe you can beat up on the Cowboys because of what they're going through. Somewhat of a I mean, if you want to call it rebuild, I guess you could kind of say at this point. I mean, certainly they have a better quarterback, at least with Dak Prescott, and maybe a little bit more better pieces. But you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, who are not going anywhere. You look at the Commanders, who are arriving, and it looks like they may not be going anywhere with Jane Daniels, too. Are they going? So they'll be there. And I look at that. The division itself. Are they even competitive? Not for those top two teams, for the Commanders and the Eagles. Maybe the Cowboys. Maybe you split the series. Maybe you sweep them. I don't know. But outside of that, I don't have too many high expectations for the Giants. Maybe they surprise me, like I said, with the pieces. Maybe it is good enough to get the job done for Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. But it's gonna be very interesting to see. I do think, regardless, this will be the regime's final season. I think it has. It should have been the final one this past season. So we'll see. It's just one more, a little bit kind of, to me, it feels like a little bit of a desperate attempt at this point, and maybe that's what they need to do, is it being desperate, because they have to do something different. They have to be a bit more aggressive. They brought in Javon Holland as well on the defensive side, so that was a bit more of a surprising signing. So, I mean, we'll see what the Giants do. Again, confused by the move here, bring in Wilson and Jameis Winston, but we'll see how it plays out in 2025, and maybe they'll add another quarterback before the offseason is done.